Let's wake up Warchant. It's presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it, everybody. Got Michael Langston here. Michael Langston doesn't need Vitamin Energy. We should give you all the Vitamin Energy you ever want, Michael, because you're always out there working god-awful long hours, man. We appreciate you taking time out to hop on here, talk recruiting. Let's get to it. We know the Junior Day is coming up later this weekend, but let's talk about what happened this past weekend. Let's start off with a legacy. We like legacies around here. They pulled in a transfer receiver that was a legacy in Deuce Robinson. Can they get a defensive back legacy that was like all-pro level talent in Antonio Cromartie?
Yeah, Antonio Cromartie Jr. He was at FSU this weekend. He's from Carrollton, Georgia. Had a really good senior year, really productive senior year. He's also the teammate of Shamar Arnox, who's on the team already. Yeah, he's from the 2025 class, so they know each other pretty well. And I don't want to ever say something's a given, but it just feels like this one looks very likely for FSU. Everything clicked. Certainly, it was really good. Just being around Norvell and being around these new defensive coaches, I think was definitely a good thing for him. I think being around Evan Cooper, certainly Patrick Surtain always makes a big impression in him. We know what Norvell does, so this one feels like it's almost I almost expect it.
Okay. Defensive back for sure. A cornerback. Is that what we're thinking when we look at Cromartie Jr.?
Yeah, he said that staff told him that we feel like we can play you at any DB position on the field, but I think it's probably going to be a boundary corner or maybe a nickel corner or something like that. But definitely, I think it'll be corner. I just feel like that's where his natural, skills really stand out. But yeah, he's a guy that Pat's liked a lot for a while, and then they got a spot open for the high school class. I think they got enough spots where they felt like, you know what, this is a guy we like. Gave him an offer on Christmas, and then everything else took care of itself. But yeah, I think everything clicked very well for the official visit, and I think there's a really good chance you could get another legacy in here.
Man, how about our guy coming off the edge in that clip right there? Man, looked real good.
Yeah.
Looked real good. Well, let's keep it on the defensive side of things. Florida State, I'm going to ask you about a transfer process later, but
Okay.
Hey, man, you always need pass rushers. You always need guys on the defensive line. Zahir Mathis, where is Zahir Mathis, you think, in terms of Florida State's wants for this upcoming class and how they kind of maybe where he positions himself after this visit?
Yeah, they highly covet him. They have since the early signing period, even back then, where really started seeing some juice of this recruitment. Going all the way back to November and December, they really, really worked hard setting up this official visit, and he really likes what they do. The amount of edge guys they play, that certainly is attractive, to him, and attractive in the schemes. And he has a previous connection with Terrence Knighton, which he told us after in the interview today. So I think there's a lot of things. I think the thing that FSU will probably have the edge on, the other two teams are Michigan and UCLA, but I think with FSU, there's an edge in just the way he can make an early impact as a freshman compared to those other places. I think it might take a little longer, but I think with FSU, that's a place that, if you're good enough and you're explosive enough, I think he could certainly see the field a lot earlier. A guy that they've coveted, very highly from the start. Probably the guy, if I was saying like you're trying to replace would be Javion Hillison when they lost him. I think this is a guy that they felt like he can add a lot to your defensive end room. They already made a really good surge at the end of the December recruiting high school, where they got a few 4-star defensive ends into the class. So I think if you can finish this off with him, I think they would look at that as almost not perfect, but a really strong finish to that edge position, especially when you add that on with what they've done in the portal and getting 4 guys there, and then maybe another additional edge guy from the portal in that spring window. I think they've really addressed that position, and they probably feel good going into the spring of what they have.
Yeah, consensus 4-star, number 3 prospect in the state of Pennsylvania, 6'5.5". He's listed as 230. Who was he committed to? Wasn't he committed to somebody for a while before he decommitted? And then
he was committed to Ohio State for a while, and then he opened things back up. I want to say on November or December, and that's when FSU was really active with him. And I think the message resonates with him of just what they do with edge guys, and I think he likes that. And then 2. The chance to play early is certainly attractive. And then I think, being around Tony White and being around Terrence Knighton again, I think that certainly only bolstered their chance. I think they set the tone. That's the way I'll word it. With the other visits with Michigan and UCLA, is the FSU really set the tone, particularly one the specifics they used on the visit of just explaining the different details of not just his position but him itself of how he would be impacted in this defensive line. So I think overall they set the tone very well, and that's kind of the message I've gotten from that visit.
I think he went to the same high school as our guy Nasir Upshur, if I'm
He
not
did.
mistaken.
He
So
did.
look at that.
Yeah.
Philly, baby, stand up. All right. This guy, this is fantastic. Sandman Thompson. Which
Yes.
I'm like, is that really? I think his maybe his government name is Chavez Thompson.
His first name is Chavez, but everyone calls him Sandman. He even introduces himself as Sandman, which
I
is
mean, we're
pretty
rolling
cool.
with it.
But then when you pop in the tape, 33 pancake blocks as a senior, 6 alone in the state finals game. By the way, played for Coco, same school as Javion Boggs. Already signed with FSU and enrolled. Now he just transferred there for this year, but I don't know how well they know each other. But that's kind of where I think a lot of that name comes from. The pancakes. I guess you can say put the defensive lineman to sleep or whatever you want to call it. But overall, it's a fun nickname, and certainly I've known for a while that FSU has wanted to get a center in this class. They know they have one for the portal, but I think they want one that they can develop with depth, and certainly this is certainly a strong possibility because there's previous ties to Herb Hand that are pretty strong, from what I've heard behind the scenes, and then Thompson kind of revealed that as well, that their relationship goes back a while, and then just the connection he had throughout the visit with Norvell, it seemed to be really strong. And I mean, really, everything seemed to click. It's really just, do you want to start at FIU or do you want to get, developed with the history of what Herb Hand has? And I think there's a lot of, I don't think you take official visits like this unless your intentions are that, hey, I could end up at Seminole. That's kind of the way I view it. But there's no indication that, hey, it's definitely going to be FSU, but I'd say it's likely.
Yeah. Again, just for the folks that might be listening to the podcast or into this, actually, no, shoot, even Cromartie's a 25 guy. So these are all 3 guys that we just talked about.
Yes.
These are all guys that would be able to come in February.
Correct.
Okay. All right, good. I thought we were maybe talking about some guys that were looking at 26.
No, those are all 2025 guys.
All right, we'll be talking about that this coming weekend. But before we get to the junior weekend coming up here, Michael, what's going to happen, if anything at all, do you think, in the transfer portal between now and I guess like the end of the month? I know there's that second window that opens up in the spring, but as maybe some of these grad transfers look around and decide they don't want to be at their current schools, maybe somebody from Notre Dame or Ohio State ends up in there. I mean, I don't know so much if there's a position you think the Florida State is still interested in and maybe possibly getting done the next few weeks, or do you think, the next week or two, that's like a long shot, anybody kind of getting at it at that point?
I haven't heard a lot, but that doesn't mean something won't happen because they have their eyes on certain guys that they could pop in there. Certainly at the edge position for me, and then the receiver position for me, those are the 2 that I'd circle. If there's ones that pop in there that they have a connection, we know this guy. That's the thing. You don't. I try to explain to people, you don't need a visit for a kid to just pop or commit. He doesn't have to visit your school for them to commit. I mean, there's a time frame between January 1st and January 5th, and then the first drop and add on the 9th or 10th. But I mean, overall, they can literally commit to you. Now, when they enroll is kind of the question. But I don't think there's any rule that says you can't commit. I don't know the visit practices of when you can go in there as far as take a visit if you're a portal guy. But overall, there's nothing that stops these guys from committing if FSU sees one they like. Now, there's certain circumstances where you have something where there's a waiver and they can get enrolled into the early fall window. But overall, I'm expecting most of it to happen in the spring when we hit that spring period. But I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee, but I'll just be honest, people. I have not heard a lot of buzz with it. That there's some additions that are coming that they're expecting, but I do know they're still talking a few.
All right, how crucial is this junior day that's coming up here, Michael? And is it any different in terms of caliber of athlete that will be on campus than years past, or is it kind of the same level in Florida State, just hoping to be able to close these deals out and make the relationships a little stronger once the finish line gets a little bit closer.
Yeah, I think it's really good based on the early indication of this, stuff we have. Several, 4-star defensive ends are in there. You see a lot of 4-star, D linemen. I think defensive backs. We usually see that. I think, with Patrick Surtain, he seems to get them, all in there. So I think there's, you'll see some offensive linemen there. So I think the talent is going to be really good. But I think it's really to kind of set the tone of what what you are as a coaches, of what you believe in, your principles, and just how that's gonna, I think, really just you're looking to create buzz throughout the whole country of other guys, because these kids talk to each other, and really it's just about generating trust with these recruits, but also them getting to know potentially your future school, their coaches. So I think it's really FSU, setting the standard of what the staff is going to be and what the program is going to be with these certain additions in your staff. You got new defensive line coach, new offensive line coach, you know, new safeties coach, all these things, receivers coach. So I think it's a lot of just we get to see how really good these guys are recruiting wise. From my perspective, of to see kind of how their recruiting aspects affect these going in 2026. It's going to really tell a lot about where the strengths are, maybe where the weaknesses are, but mainly where the strengths are with a lot of these coaches.
All right, there we go. Stay connected to Warchant.com's premium recruiting board. Michael and Matt got you covered. Michael, thanks for doing this. Maybe we'll do something else later in the week, get everybody prepared for Junior Day. And then if you need some help, let me know, buddy.
You got it, man.
Michael Langston, everybody.